it's time to catch you up on some of the goings on at the farm. It's been quite an up and down past few weeks, so there's some things to update you on. In the case of the turkeys, I'm afraid I do not have good news. And then to my delight, yesterday, it is coming back to life, thank goodness. You will know that we have had a major drought here, and there's been the least amount of rainfall in Suffolk in this precisely area since 1856, but we had rain, and it is amazing how grass just comes back. So you can already see it is coming back to life, thank goodness. The girls are also super happy. One thing that is super noticeable though is the amount of poo on the ground, and that I think is twofold. A, because we haven't had any rain or moisture to break it down, but B, there's been such a lower impact from insects this year because of the drought. So a lot of the things that would break down the poo, like worms and dung beetles and flies, just haven't been around. I'm hoping now that we've had some rain and grass is coming back and it's still relatively warm, that some of those beneficial insects will come back. And of course we don't use wormers, or I try not to use wormers, so that the feces of the sheep are not got chemicals in them, which means we can then have those natural dung beetles and things to come along and deal with the poo. Now, while these girls have escaped and are enjoying their best life, the majority of the sheep are actually where they're supposed to be, in the rotational grazing area. And another effect of the lack of the rain is that although it looks like I've got edible stuff across here, it's just dead. And the nutritional value in this is pretty non-existent, which means the girls have become quite thin. In fact, I've actually had to be giving them hay and ewe-nuts just to make sure that they don't lose too much condition. And the knock-on of that is, although you don't want fat sheep because they won't ovulate, if you have thin sheep, they also won't ovulate as many eggs. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have to flush these, and that simply means just feeding them a higher amount of food. So then when we start to tup next month, they're actually releasing more eggs. Otherwise, though we'll still get lambs, we'll probably end up with lots of singles. And then there's nothing wrong with singles, of course. I'd much prefer a nice single healthy lamb than, twins or triplets that are sickly. On the production side of things and the actual making money side of things, we need lambs so that we can sell the lambs, so that we can make some money, and that all feeds back into the farm and helps feed for the mums. I've just remembered that in here there's actually a little nest, and the other day there were 2 eggs in it, and I've just seen the hen running back to the coop over there, and I can already see how many are in here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little banty eggs. Oh, I'm tempted to leave them, although it is mid-September, so what I may do is wait till she's laid all of her eggs and is about to incubate, and then put them into the incubator. Otherwise, I would worry that she'll get too cold, or the fox, as the temperatures start to drop, will find her and these eggs a nice little snack. In the case of the turkeys, I'm afraid I do not have good news. I'm properly gutted to tell you that 8 out of 9 are dead. I don't know what... Well, as you saw from the last video, I didn't originally have this on. And I came back, Jock was in his crate. I came back, this was off, and 2 were missing. And I think they jumped out, fell into the crate, and Jock actually ate them, which isn't good. Obviously, I didn't expect that of him, but he was left here on his own in the crate. So that's something to be aware of in the future. It's also a surprise because our other dogs you can completely trust, but obviously Jock we cannot. And then over the course of the past couple of days, they've just gone, they've been fine 1 minute, and then the next minute they are floppy and weak. There's another dead one here, look. They get floppy, they get weak, and then they just die. The only one we got left is this little chap. Hello. But as you can see, really weak. So I don't know what's going on. There's been no sign of coccidiosis. no diarrhea. They've got chick starter, which have actually upped to game starter, so it's got high protein. They've got their heat pad, they've got water. And that, my friends, has really, really affected my mental health. Now, I knew, obviously, coming into farming, it wasn't easy. But it does seem that this year has just thrown everything it possibly could at trying to knock me back. And it has. And that's why I might have not been as productive in many things. But there is nothing worse than sowing your garden and putting all that hard work into your garden and just seeing everything die. And those turkey chicks die. And the khaki Campbell chicks, ducklings, which were about to hatch, all getting eaten. It's been rough. And because of that, a lot of things haven't got done. I should have been watering these fruit trees that I put in early in the season, but I'm afraid I didn't have the extra water or the mental capacity to sort them out. So we now just have to hope that they survive. The same has to be said for the nuttery. This is where we were going to have, and still plan to have, nut trees, a nut orchard, and the turkeys underneath. However, this is the state of all the nut trees. They're all completely dead. And we're just going to have to try again. And the pigs too, I failed at being proactive in terms of finding these girls a boar. And I do feel bad about that, because obviously when it comes to pregnancies, there's times it's not like I'm suddenly going to get a boar and then there'll be piglets. It's going to take 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days after they've been bred till I get any piglets. And so obviously I need a boar as quick as possible, but just in the grand scheme of things, it's not been on the high priority list in terms of safeguarding my mental health. And the thing is, I'm under no illusion that farming is hard work. Of course it is. And also, there are many ups and downs. The more animals I have, the more things you're growing and planting and sowing, the more you're going to have losses. But this year it just seems that every single possible thing has not worked, or just been disappointing in what you wanted it to be. However, over the past couple of weeks, maybe the week, there have been a couple of tiny gems to hold on to. The first is this. I've had disasters with hens going off and laying eggs and sitting on clutches, but this little bantam has managed to hatch out 5 lovely little chicks, and she's doing a great job of being mum. Now, they're useless in terms of being chickens for sale because they're completely mixed and they're tiny bantams. So they're not going to go into the egg production side of things and lay eggs for me to sell. And they're not going to be nice purebred chickens to sell, but I just needed something. And then to my delight, yesterday, I came in here and looked at this Silky, who has this gorgeous little chick. Now, this is a hen that I thought was sitting on infertile eggs because I thought the male was throwing blanks. Obviously, he wasn't throwing one blank because we have a chick. At this time of year as well, things like lettuces are still growing really quickly. This is probably only about 2 weeks old, and I'm going to be planting it outside into the garden. The polytunnel is actually too warm for these plants and they would go to seed too quickly. So the transplants I currently have are going into the garden, and then I'm sowing a load of fresh lettuces now, which will then be going into the polytunnel to grow and then sit over winter. You can see that the small patch of surviving dahlias also have massively benefited from the rain and the lower temperatures. And although I'm still watering them and I'm not going to be getting any bouquets off them anytime soon, they are rejuvenating and producing some buds. And if we don't have a frost until into November, there will be some flowers still to get off these. The market garden is rather indicative of how this year has gone. It's a slight barren mess. We do have some kale, and it looks like, oh look, there's a caterpillar there. It looks like the flea beetle have finally decided to bugger off, and I'm hoping now that, obviously I can't sell any of these leaves, but I'm hoping that fresh leaves will come through. And I've also got loads of newly sown seedlings to fill in the holes across the winter. The chard, what hasn't gone to seed, is starting to get a bit better as well. I've got this space to put some spinach in. The marrows and courgettes have got some serious mildew in some places, which they're prone to, but that's just due to stress from the water. But you can see they're still producing some nice produce, which is good. Carrots, I still haven't been able to get out the ground, but there does look like there's some decent carrots in there. It's just how far down the ground they get, or are they just little nubs? We will see. This is a radish bed that I've abandoned. You can see they all just went wooden and horrible, but I have begun to transplant some new radish seedlings and also some new turnip seedlings. And then we still have a few beets to take up too. If you're enjoying the video or finding some useful tips, then please consider subscribing, as it massively helps out the channel. Or you can even buy me a virtual coffee. The link is in the description below. I'm also spending a fair bit of time now clearing out the beds, clearing the garden, just to reveal how much space I have. All the onions and garlics have been harvested now, and so I'm kind of pulling weeds and raking. Just so we can get an idea actually of where I'm going to put stuff next year, because I'm already planning for the 2023 season. Having all this open soil isn't actually very good for soil health because it allows erosion, it allows it to dry out. I don't quite know what I'm going to do yet. I may try and sow a cover crop for the winter, or I may just cover it, which is easiest, in black plastic, just to lock it in and not let it erode. That's probably what I'll end up doing, although I may try a cover crop in a couple of areas. I've never done it before. I know it's better for the soil, but just in terms of ease and time, might be easier just to cover the entire thing up.